Hi, this is Orion Evans. This is a short version of the video on Finding Health, Lymphatics for All. If you've already watched the longer video and have learned about the lymphatics and just want to watch the exercise portion of that video, here it is. Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with opening up some channels. And if you've ever had a clogged up pipe, you know you can't really get that pipe flowing again until you've released the clog at the end. And as we know, all the lymphatics in our body drain back into the venous system near the heart, and most of that happens on the left side in the thoracic duct. Okay, and that drains the thoracic duct, which you've seen a picture of, drains all of our lower body and the whole left side of our upper body as well. And so let's do a little work to open that up at the junction where it meets up with the venous system. And to do that, I want you to come onto your breastbone, it's called the sternum, that bone in the middle of your chest. And I want you to feel where the collarbone ends at that breastbone, and then go down just a little bit, and then come back out again to the left side, just under the collarbone. You're in that area of the top of the rib cage. Okay, I'm going to get a little closer so you can see kind of right there where I'm pressing around there. It may feel a little tender. We're going to do a few different little movements to open that area up, and you can try out all of them and see which ones you like better, or do a little of each. And when you're doing this at home, some days certain of these little movements may feel better than others. The first one is to just vibrate. So you're taking your fingers and you're putting them on your body, and then you're moving it in little circles. So I'll show you kind of close up. There we go. Just a little vibration. The second one is a little pumping. And again, with those same kind of two fingers, you're push and rebound. Push, it's kind of like bouncing a ball that you push down and come back up. Push and come back up. So you're not kind of trying to really force it or move it, just putting a little pumping motion in there. So pump, 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 pump. I'm doing this with my right hand on the left side of my body. And the other way to do it is to just tap gently. You're not hitting real hard, you're just tapping gently in that area. And that's going to open up that end of the lymphatics. Okay, we're going to start at the end. And we just do that for a few minutes. It may be a little tender, it may feel like nothing is happening, and you may be tempted to tap it a little harder. That won't work. It's better to just do it a little gently and just a little patiently. You need to have some patience when you're working with the lymphatics. Okay. And then you'll start to feel, it'll start to feel a little softer. Now we're going to do a similar kind of motion on the right side. The right lymphatic duct also enters into the right side of the venous system right before it enters the heart. The thoracic duct carries most of the lymph, but the right lymphatic duct does carry lymph from the right side of the head and the throat and the lungs, so it has its own importance. So again, you're on the right side now, and you can do those little motions, little vibration. If you're happier, if you're very right-handed and you want to just use your right hand, you can come in that way. And a little bit of tapping or a little bit of pumping. I might want to pump this way and give you a better view. just take a minute to do that. And then let your hands drop and just take a few little breaths and see if you can feel a difference in your breathing. Okay, for our next exercise, we're going to open up the back of the diaphragm. And if you remember from those pictures, right in front of the back of the diaphragm, basically, is those adrenal glands. So, and also in the back there is cisterna chyli, the bottom end, if you like, of the thoracic duct. So we've opened up the top of the thoracic duct, and now we're going to open up the bottom of the thoracic duct. So what you want to do is make little fists in your hands, and you're going to put those fists against your back. Okay, the top of your low back, the bottom of the lower ribs. If you have shoulder problems and you can't do this, you can just spread your hands and get your thumbs around the back area. Okay, so I'm going to turn around and try and show that to you. Move my camera a little bit and just put my hands in the back here. And if your shoulders aren't up for that and that's a hard position, then you can just kind of hold the sides with your thumbs wrapping around the back. So then take just a minute to get comfortable. Make sure your legs are relaxed on the ground. And then you're going to push those wrists into your back and towards the front of your body. Push them very gently. Remember, the movement that we do in these exercises is gentle and small. But you can put a nice bit of support in there, and you can even lean back a little bit over your hands. And we basically just hold them there and giving the support to the bottom of your rib cage and the back of the diaphragm where the muscles are attaching in there allows it to relax. And you just spend a little minute doing that. Just letting your breath be nice and soft and moving into that area. And maybe you lean a little more or you push a little more forward with your hands. You're going to feel like getting a little more relaxed under your hands. Okay, and then slowly release. So, we've released the back of the diaphragm, and if you take a couple of breaths, you're going to feel that your diaphragm and your rib cage is moving a little easier, but you may still be feeling how tight it is around the sides and in the front with all the sitting that people are doing at the moment, or just in general in their lives, sitting in front of the desks at work. Those areas can get really tight. So we're going to start by opening up the sides. We opened up the back, now we're going to open up the sides. And basically what you want to do is reach one arm across. So I have my left arm reaching to the right side, and then I put my other hand, my right hand on top, and I'm going to bend into that area. And this is not an exercise class. This is not a yoga class. It is not about how far you can bend. It's about bending just enough to engage the tissues. So if I'm looking at my diaphragm and I go like this, I've missed it, okay? And if I go just a tiny bit, I haven't quite got it. So it's a matter of going just a little bit and you're pushing your hands in a little bit to engage the tissues under the rib cage. So we breathe in, and when we breathe out, we just side bend a little bit, and then we hold it. And we take some breaths into that area. Good. And maybe on another out breath, you might go a little bit further, but not much. And then on an in-breath, just slowly straighten up again. Okay, let's do the other side. So I take my right hand, bring it across, put it on the side, put my left hand on top of it for support. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to see how far I can bend, but just enough to engage my diaphragm. Okay, so breathe, take a few breaths in, and on and out breath, just push a little bit in and fold over your hands. So your hands are kind of like a support and you're folding over. And take a few breaths. So your body's relaxing and your hands are giving it the support to do that. And maybe you can bend a little bit more, just engaging the tissues. Okay, and then slowly sit up. Okay, now that should feel pretty good, but you probably still feel some tightness under this top of the diaphragm where it attaches in the front behind your sternum and those ribs. So we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to put your two hands support each other and your body kind of folds over it, okay? So we're going to be bending forward, but it's not like a forward bend or trying to touch your toes. You're just taking the area above your hand and folding it, slouching it forward a little bit. And while you do that, your hands, which are going to start against your body, kind of fold underneath a little bit. So it's kind of like a folding in. You can do this both one hand on each side and folding, but it's a little easier to do one side at a time. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll start on this right side. I put my left hand there on the front. I put my right hand on top, okay? And try and get your left hand, your inside hand, if you like, the part touching the body, kind of more relaxed and soft, and the outside hand doing the work. And again, it's going to kind of scoop under the diaphragm, under your rib cage, okay? So you breathe in and out and in, and when you breathe out, you just kind of fold over a little bit. This might feel quite uncomfortable. Don't try and push it. Just go to the point where you stop, and it may feel like you've done nothing at all, but just stay there and breathe. And then after a few breaths, you may find that you can fold a little bit more, okay? And just hold it. The idea is not to see how far you can go. The idea is to just give a little bit of support for your diaphragm so it can release. Okay, and then come up again. So in this work, we're not trying to stretch the diaphragm or push against the diaphragm. We're almost trying to spring it a little bit, compress it a little bit so it has a little bit of ease. And then your diaphragm can go, oh, maybe I don't have to work so hard. And it releases, okay? So let's do the other side, on the left side. And you're trying to get kind of underneath here. So one hand kind of quiet, the other active, and then I kind of lean over it. Just slouching over your hands. And up. Okay, so we've opened up the diaphragm, the back and the sides and the front of the diaphragm. And now it's time to open up that top of the rib cage a little more and help that lymphatic movement through there. So let's begin. Take your hands and find, they can meet to begin with, and find that breastbone underneath, and then spread spread out a little bit so it's under the ribs. Okay, so we're going to do 3 different movements kind of in a row, and I'll show them to you, and then we'll do them in a cycle. So the first one is that you find that spot, those ribs, and you just breathe in, and as you breathe in, you kind of bring your shoulders back and the front of the rib cage spreads. So your elbows are kind of up like wings, and they spread. Okay? And then the second one, you reach over to kind of your armpit area. There's a big muscle there called the pectoralis major. There's a lot of lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, in there. And so there's a lot of lymphatic drainage and areas in our body which are kind of tight, and the lymph can get stuck. So we want to open up those lymph nodes. So you kind of take your hand and you put it just under your armpit if you like. And as you breathe in, you kind of pull it up and over a little bit. Okay? And then we do the other side. Up and over a little bit. Okay? So let's do that. 3 movements. First of all, breathe in and pull your arms back, open up, and then over to one side and up and in towards your body and relax. And on the other side, up and in towards your body and relax. And then spread, and then up and in, and up and in on the other side. Okay, let's do that a couple more times. Spread, and up and in, and up and in. And one more time. Spread, and up and in, and up and in. Good. Great. Now, let's do what I call waking up the lymphatics. So, it's kind of like knocking on the door. Hello, is anybody home? We're going to do that tapping. We did that little tapping over the lymphatic ducts, and now we're going to do it over the whole chest. You can use your kind of whole hands if you want. You can use just the 2 fingers and just one hand. But let's try and kind of remember the lymphatics are everywhere. You can even, you can do it on your arms, you can do it on your legs. But certainly you want to keep your chest and your heart lymphatics nice and open. You can do up into your throat a little bit. That's really helpful for people. Okay, and I'm going to move the camera so you can kind of see coming down. You can stretch around the back if you like, and up the sides. So, hello, wake up, wake up, wake up. Hello, and remember, tapping hard isn't going to make it go any faster or be any more effective. So, nice and gentle and playful with this. Remember, treat the lymphatics with tenderness. Okay. And take a minute now and just let yourself breathe. And by now you should be feeling a little like you have a wider expansion of the breathing. Remember, every time you breathe, you move those lymphatics. Okay, now we're going to do what I call the lymphatic wobble, which is basically shaking your body really gently to match the tone of those delicate vessels and really get them happy to move. Okay, you're not trying to force them. You want them to be engaged in this. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera so you can see my feet. We're going to start with feet on the ground, ankles soft, and wobbling a little bit in your knees and ankles. So let me see if I can get the camera kind of that way. Okay, so my feet are on the ground. This is not lifting your heels. This is sinking your knees, and it's not bending. You're not doing squats. You're just softening those knees a little bit and softening those ankles. People's ankles tend to be really, really tight. And just very gently. If you have a kind of mini tramp or rebounder, this is really nice to do on one of those. If you are doing it on that, do not, it's not bouncing, you're not leaving that trampoline surface. You're leaving your feet on the ground or on the mini tramp and just bouncing a little bit. And then after you do that a little while, you can start to kind of just let your pelvis get in the act and soften. Okay, I'm going to move the camera a little bit. And now you have that same wobble, and the pelvis is soft, and now let your arms drop, and you just kind of shake a little bit. If you don't have time to do the whole series, just do this. Just get up in the morning and you're feeling a little funky, or if it's the afternoon and your system's kind of sluggish, just do a little bit of shaking, a little wobble. And remember that the lymphatics are delicate and you want to be kind to your body, kind to the lymphatics, so that there's a certain kind of flow, a certain kind of softness. And usually it may feel like nothing's happening. Some days this might be really easy. Some days you're like, yeah, whatever, nothing's happening. And the tendency is to try and move it more. But in fact, most people that I work with are moving too much rather than too little. So in fact, you want to slow it down just a little bit. And it may take 10 seconds or it may take 2 minutes, but eventually you're going to start to feel almost like a warmth coming in your body. And so I'm starting to feel that, and maybe a little softness. So, and after that happens, after it starts to soften up, you stay with it a little while, but not forever. You can just do it for a couple of minutes, because once you've woken up the lymphatics, once you've said, hey, let's try and get some motion, it'll take it from there. Anything you do will help it. But if the lymphatics are tight, if the thoracic duct is clogged up, if your cisterna chyli is clogged up, if your diaphragm's not moving, you can go for a 10-mile run and you won't move the lymphatics. And I see that in my work. I treat athletes who are really not moving the lymphatics because the channels aren't open. So we do this, and it really then helps. And if you're feeling unwell, this can be really nice. You don't want to overdo it, but nice. Okay, now just take a minute to just feel that breath in and out of your hands. Just nice and quiet. And even though we're not working on, I'm not interested in deep breaths, you're going to feel more freedom. You're going to feel more opening in the rib cage as you open. And one thing I want to say is that if you're unwell, this is really helpful, but it's also important to not overdo it. I've been working with some people over video who have symptoms of COVID, and these techniques are really helpful, but there's a fine line between opening up and getting the flow going and exhausting your body. So just feel your own system. Some days you just might be really tired and you don't want to do very much, but do a little bit and you'll feel better. Other days you're feeling kind of clogged up, and you work with it for a while and it feels like, yes, I'm moving. So that's the exercise series. You can do the whole series. You can do just little parts of it, but play with it and enjoy it. And now we're going to do a little meditation to finish up. And after the meditation, I would highly recommend just lying down or sitting quietly, or maybe taking a really gentle walk, but spending a little bit of quiet time to allow this treatment that you've done on yourself to integrate and work through as deeply as possible. Thank you very much. We've talked about a lot of different things today, about how the lymphatics work and what they look like in our bodies, and also how to access them to get them to function well in our bodies for health. And I just thought I'd give you a little summary here on this slide of the different exercises that we did, so you can have that uh, to remind you. Enjoy. Thank you.